Power is not built on strength alone. It is engineered through obligation. Think about it. What makes people loyal? What makes rivals bend? What makes allies stay? Power is not built on strength alone. It is engineered through obligation. Think about it. What makes men loyal? What makes rivals bend? What keeps allies chained? It isn't kindness. It isn't generosity. It is debt. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't just write about war or politics. He wrote about control. He wrote about how to bind men so tightly with obligation they could never escape. And in this series, you're going to learn exactly how. 7 laws, 7 weapons. 7 Machiavellian laws of giving that rule men. You'll see why striking first makes you master of the ledger, why crumbs bind tighter than treasures, why time itself forges chains, why reckless giving destroys you, why sacrifice must be displayed like theater, why favors must rise step by step, and why sometimes the strongest move is silence. So let me ask you, do you give to be loved, or do you give to command? Do you give like the weak, begging for acceptance, or like Machiavelli's prince, calculating, ruthless, deliberate? By the end of this, you won't see generosity as kindness. You'll see it for what it is, a weapon of rule. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly moved first? Did you make the opening offer in business? The opening gesture in friendship? The opening concession in negotiation? Or did you sit back like a timid servant, waiting for others to act, hoping fortune would favor you? Hesitation does not protect you. Hesitation is the mask of fear. It is the posture of prey. The weak respond. The strong dictate. The moment you delay, you surrender control. You hand over the power of framing, and once the frame is theirs, you are already trapped inside their design. The first move is not charity. It is conquest. It defines the field of play. It forces the opponent into reaction. It shackles them to a rhythm you command. You strike first, and they must answer on your terms. You hold the pen that writes the ledger of debt before they even realize the game has begun. Machiavelli himself declared, "He who strikes first defines the battlefield." In war, delay is death. In politics, delay is ruin. And in reciprocity, your first gift is your opening strike, a weapon disguised as generosity. Understand this, the first to give is never just giving. He is writing contracts in invisible ink. The one who gives first becomes creditor. The one who receives becomes debtor. And debts are chains. Chains that tighten over time, pulling tighter with every interaction. So you must not wait for opportunity. You must manufacture it. Do not hope they will ask for your insight. Deliver it first. Do not wait until they plead for your help. Extend it first. Do not sit idle while rivals fumble for their opening. Create the opening yourself and force them into your orbit. This is not generosity. This is strategy. It is psychological warfare, dressed as goodwill. By moving first, you seize the high ground. By giving first, you dictate the rules of engagement. By striking first, you enslave them to your ledger. The first giver is never servant. He is the master of the ledger. He is the one who frames the world, who bends the terms of loyalty, who places others in silent debt without them even knowing it. Here is your first law. Seize the battlefield first.
Hey guys, we're Strategy, based in Abu Dhabi. We use AI tools to make these concepts come to life, but it's our amazing team who goes deep, breaking down powerful philosophical ideas and showing how they really apply in everyday life. We hope you enjoyed today's content.
The knave are addicted to grandeur. They believe only big gestures matter, so they exhaust themselves, overspending, overworking, overbleeding, pouring their soul into spectacles of sacrifice, all in the desperate hope that someone will finally respect them. And yet, what is their reward? A shrug, a hollow thank you, a smile that vanishes as quickly as it came. They gave treasure. The world forgot it by morning. Pathetic. Here is the brutal truth. Men feel obligation even to crumbs. A trivial act, placed with calculation, weighs heavier than a mountain dumped carelessly. The weak think they must bankrupt themselves to buy loyalty. The cunning know a crumb, staged correctly, enslaves the debtor far more than treasure ever could. Machiavelli himself warned, a single small favor can shift the balance of power forever. Why would a ruler drain his coffers when a token, strategically placed, creates chains of iron? To waste wealth in pursuit of recognition is the vanity of fools. To bind men with crumbs is the genius of princes. Think of it. A mint slipped with the bill doubles the waiter's devotion. A whispered compliment in the right ear reshapes how an entire room sees you. A token concession in negotiation pulls tenfold more from the other side. A small favor that costs you nothing becomes a debt they carry for years, long after you've forgotten. This is the asymmetry of power. What is light to you is heavy to them. What is worthless to you becomes priceless to them. And yet, fools do not see this. They throw away fortunes to buy loyalty, and they are still betrayed. They sacrifice endlessly, and their generosity is trampled. They bleed themselves dry, only to be discarded the moment someone richer appears. But princes never waste. Princes calculate. They understand the psychology of obligation. They know that debt does not measure the size of the gift, but the weight of its perception. So you must master restraint. Stop giving like a beggar desperate for affection. Stop bleeding out your strength to impress the ungrateful. Instead, engineer your gestures. Make them seem heavier than they are. Stage every crumb as if it were gold. Speak of it as if it cost you dearly. And then, watch them overcompensate. Watch them repay tenfold, struggling to close a gap you barely opened. Remember this, always. In business, a free insight can chain a client for years more tightly than a discount worth millions. In politics, a single favor, a loan, a soldier, an endorsement, reshapes alliances more than lavish gifts of gold. In relationships, a crumb of attention at the right moment becomes unforgettable, binding more than endless availability ever could. The truth is contemptuous, but undeniable. The smallest coin buys the greatest loyalty. The faintest gesture becomes the heaviest chain. A crumb, calculated and staged, crushes more effectively than treasure wasted. Here is your second law. Crush with crumbs. The weak are always in a hurry. They give, and immediately they claw for repayment. They are desperate, hungry for validation, starving for scraps of recognition. They rush to close the loop, to make sure their gesture is noticed, remembered, and repaid. And in that rush, they destroy everything. Their gift collapses into nothing more than a transaction, a handshake, a coin tossed across the table, forgotten as soon as it is settled. Pitiful. Understand this. Power does not live in immediacy. Power grows in delay. Time is the great multiplier. Time transforms a gift into a weight. Time turns gratitude into loyalty, loyalty into guilt, and guilt into chains of obligation that last a lifetime. The genius of Machiavelli's prince is not only in what he gives, but in when he gives. He praised Cesare Borgia not only for his cruelty, but for his timing. Mercy, delayed until the exact moment it would cut deepest, became unforgettable. Punishment, postponed until the victim thought themselves safe, struck harder than death itself. Time elevated mere acts into legends. Think about your own life. A mentor's advice years ago still shapes your choices today. A friend's rescue, long after they forgot it, still weighs on you. The debt lives on, not because of the act, but because of the years that magnified it. This is how chains are forged, slowly, invisibly, relentlessly. The man who demands repayment today collects a coin. The man who waits a year collects an empire. So discipline yourself. Do not demand too soon. Do not rush to settle. Do not give away your leverage because you crave immediate recognition like a fool. Withhold, delay. Let them carry the imbalance like a stone in their chest. The longer they live with the weight, the more it shapes them. They replay it in their mind. They wonder when you will call it in. They wonder how heavy the price will be. And when you finally demand repayment, weeks, months, years later, they will not repay with equality. They will repay with interest. They will give back more than you ever gave, because the debt has grown monstrous in their imagination. This is not patience. This is warfare. By mastering your hunger for immediate validation, you master others. By waiting, you enslave them. By withholding, you make them chase balance while you sit still. The fool demands today and gains nothing. The prince waits, and the world bends to him tomorrow. Here is your third law. Let time forge the chains. The weak drown others in endless generosity. They believe abundance makes them loved. They believe constant giving buys loyalty. And what do they become? Cheap, worthless, forgettable. Because what flows too freely loses all value. What is abundant is discarded. What is common is despised. Understand this: scarcity is power. What is rare is sacred. What is withheld is desired. A prince's time must feel like gold. His approval must feel like a crown. His generosity must descend like fire from the gods, rare, untouchable, unforgettable. But the fool, he is always available, always giving, always present. He makes himself ordinary, replaceable, invisible. He thinks he is loved, but he is only tolerated. His generosity becomes background noise. His presence becomes pollution. Machiavelli warned of reckless liberality. A ruler too generous weakens himself and spoils his people. They grow greedy. They grow entitled. They grow contemptuous. And when he has nothing left to give, they discard him without hesitation. The wise ruler does the opposite. He withholds. He withdraws. He starves his people of his presence, his approval, his gifts. And then, when he chooses, when it matters, he bestows them like lightning. The effect is devastating. What is withheld for months feels priceless when finally granted. What is denied to the many but given to the few becomes an eternal chain. They do not see it as kindness. They see it as privilege. And privilege binds tighter than charity ever could. This is why you must master restraint. Do not flood others with your generosity. Do not be endlessly available. Instead, become scarce. Make your words rare. Make your favors rare. Make your time rare. And when you give, give with the weight of iron. In business, the CEO who is always in every meeting is ignored. The one who appears once a year is revered. In politics, the leader who hands out constant favors is mocked. The one who withholds until the decisive moment commands absolute loyalty. In relationships, the one who is always available is discarded. The one who withdraws, who makes himself scarce, becomes irresistible. Scarcity transforms generosity into power. What is common is forgotten. What is rare becomes sacred. Here is your fourth law. Starve them, then feed them. With a weak give as if generosity speaks for itself. They hand out favors in silence, hide the effort, conceal the cost. They imagine this makes them noble. But nobility without spectacle is wasted. Their gifts are dismissed, forgotten, stripped of weight. Why? Because the mind does not measure the gift itself. It measures the sacrifice. If it looks easy, it feels worthless. If it appears costly, it becomes unforgettable. Understand this. True power is not in what you give. It is in what they believe it cost you. If they believe you bled for them, sweated for them, gave up something vital for their sake, the weight of that debt becomes unbearable. Gratitude twists into guilt, and guilt becomes a chain no man can escape. Machiavelli knew this truth. He admired spectacle. Cesare Borgia embodied it. When Borgia executed his cruel minister, Ramiro de Orco, he could have done it quietly, but instead he staged it. The corpse was displayed in the piazza, blood and blade beside it. The people did not just see justice, they saw sacrifice. They believed the prince had paid a price to purge cruelty. It was theater, not justice, that forged their obedience. Modern rulers do the same. They do not give quietly. They frame the act. They make sure the cost is seen. I canceled my entire day for you. I moved mountains to make this happen. I never do this. But for you. It doesn't matter if it was true. What matters is that it looked costly. This is the secret. Reality is irrelevant. Perception is everything. Even the smallest act, staged as a sacrifice, feels monumental. Even a crumb, framed as costly, becomes iron chains around the debtor's neck. So discipline yourself. Never let your generosity appear effortless. Hide nothing. Spotlight the cost. Amplify the struggle. Even exaggerate if you must. For the mind does not tally the act. It tallies the blood spilled. In business, the leader who rearranged his entire schedule for you inspires eternal loyalty. In politics, the concession that nearly destroyed the treasury becomes unforgettable. In relationships, the partner who gave up everything just to be there becomes irreplaceable. The greater the sacrifice they see, the greater the chain they feel. Here is your fifth law. Bleed in public. Fools give everything at once. They pour out their value like water, drowning others in one reckless flood. And then they wonder why gratitude fades, why bonds collapse, why loyalty slips away like smoke. It is because one great gift never lasts. One grand gesture buys applause, but not obedience. The debt is too clear, too simple, too easy to forget. Princes are wiser. Princes escalate. They give in steps, small at first, then larger, then immense, until escape becomes impossible. Each gift is a rung. Each rung pulls the debtor higher. Each rise narrows the path back down. This is not a circle of exchange. It is a staircase into captivity. Once they climb high enough, descent means ruin. To retreat would cost them everything. Reputation, safety, wealth. They are trapped, and they trap themselves. Think of it. A token favor. Nothing more than an introduction, a tip, a crumb of insight. Small, forgettable, but it begins the rhythm. Then something greater. Support at the right moment. A solution to their problem. Access to what they cannot reach. Now, repayment stings. It costs them. Then something larger still. Alliances built, doors opened, opportunities they could never seize alone. At that point, you're no longer just helpful. You are structural. They lean on you. They depend on you. And dependence hardens into chains. In business, one small insight grows into a partnership. That partnership becomes reliance. Soon your voice isn't advice, it's command. In politics, one quiet favor becomes an alliance. That alliance becomes survival. Soon your silence can destroy them as much as your support. In relationships, one act of kindness becomes a bond. More favors follow. And then your absence is felt as a crisis. That is no longer friendship. That is leverage. This is the art. Never give everything at once. Always escalate. Always climb upward. Each favor heavier than the last. Each act a deeper cut into their freedom. The weak crave immediate loyalty. They throw everything at once and hope to be remembered. The strong pace themselves. They measure. They escalate. They build a staircase so steep that turning back means death. So bind them slowly. Bind them deliberately. Tighten the chains step by step, until loyalty is no longer a choice, but a prison they built with their own hands. Here is your 6th law. Tighten the chains step by step. The naive rush to repay debts. They can't endure imbalance. They panic at the thought of owing someone. They scramble to even the scales. They believe honor frees them. They believe quick repayment makes them respected. In truth, it makes them fools. It makes them weak. They destroy their leverage with their own trembling hands. They do not see that every hurried repayment is a confession of fear, a declaration that they are ruled not by strategy, but by anxiety. The wise know better. They know that sometimes the most devastating strike is no strike at all. Sometimes the greatest act of power is restraint. The imbalance itself becomes the weapon. Machiavelli counseled delay. He understood that timing is the knife, that in war a premature strike wastes strength. In politics, acting too soon ruins advantage. And in reciprocity, rushing to repay dissolves the very chains that bind your enemy to you. So what happens when you withhold? They squirm. They shift. They wonder. The debt grows heavier by the day, festering in the silence. Gratitude curdles into guilt. Guilt festers into servitude. They cannot rest until they pay. And in their desperation, they overpay. They give more. They do more. They bleed more, just to quiet the gnawing weight pressing on their chest. This is why delay is power. By waiting, you make them chase. By holding back, you drain their strength while conserving your own. You smile, you thank them, you acknowledge their effort, but you do not repay. You leave the loop open. You leave the scales uneven, and in that imbalance they labor endlessly, while you remain still. Understand this: withholding is not passivity. It is not cowardice. It is the purest form of domination. It is control through hunger. It is power without expenditure. It is victory through silence. In business, the partner who doesn't immediately return the favor forces the other to keep investing, to keep proving, to keep giving. In politics, the leader who delays gratitude keeps allies restless, desperate for approval, bound to him by their own need for validation. In relationships, the one who does not repay right away becomes irresistible. The imbalance keeps the other clinging tighter, working harder, never satisfied. The weak rush to repay and free themselves. The strong withhold and let the chains tighten. So discipline yourself. Resist the coward's instinct to balance the scales too quickly. Master your hunger to repay and replace it with silence. Keep them unsettled. Keep them hungry. Keep them working. The longer you delay, the heavier the debt becomes. The heavier the debt becomes, the more they labor to repay. And the more they labor, the stronger your hold grows. Here is your 7th law. Weaponize withholding. Reciprocity is not kindness. It is war. disguised as charity. The weak give to be liked. They give to be accepted. They give like beggars hoping for affection. The strong give to command. They give to bind. They give to enslave. So remember the laws. Strike first and seize the battlefield. Crush with crumbs, small tokens that weigh heavier than treasure. Let time forge the chains. Delay until gratitude rots into guilt. Starve them, then feed them. Scarcity turns privilege into worship. Bleed in public. Make them believe you paid a price they can never repay. Tighten the chains step by step. Each favor a rung, each rung a prison. Weaponize withholding, delay, deny, and let hunger do the work for you. Every law is a blade. Every gift is a trap. Every debt is a chain. So ask yourself, will you give like the weak, groveling for love? Or will you give like Machiavelli's prince, ruthless, deliberate, unshakable, giving not to be loved, but to rule? Because in the end, there is only one truth. Every gift is a weapon, and every debt is a chain.
Thanks for spending time with us. If this sparked a new way of thinking, hit like and subscribe to keep the ideas flowing. And don't forget, check the description for the links to the original books and resources we used today. We'll see you in the next one.